Good morning, good day, and good evening. Welcome to Smugglers MMA. Today we're going to be discussing our full breakdown, fight breakdowns, and matchmaking for all the winners on UFC Freedom 250, starting right away with Diego Lopez versus Steve Garcia. This was a high-paced fight right from the start. I predicted Diego Lopez would win by decision. I think you had Lopez by second round KO, which is what happened. Am I correct?
Yes, you
So
are.
this was one of the fights that you predicted dead on. We predicted every fight correct on this card. We went 7 for 7. There was one fight where we split, but you got the right pick. I was wrong. It was the Pereira Gon fight. Anyways, this was a fast-paced fight right away. Diego is so good in chaos. He just marches forward all the time. We saw it in the Volk fight. It didn't really work out for him in either of those fights because Volk's so crafty, but Steve Garcia is just there to be hit. And I mean, Diego hit him. I don't know what else to say. It was a scrap. Both guys landed some good shots, but eventually, first round was razor thin. I had Diego, you had Steve Garcia. And then the second round started, and Diego just started kind of getting into these clashes, and he was eventually able to put on the volume. And I don't know if it was really like a hard shot that knocked down Steve Garcia, but it might have been just like the volume, the balance, the right mix of both. And it was a nice little combo in a clash. I believe it was like a left hook that knocked Steve Garcia down, and then Diego followed up with a TKO, which leaves us to matchmaking Diego. There's a rumor that says he might go to 155. But if he I would prefer him to stay at 145 because he's kind of in a weird place with Volkanovski right now. I do think, though, that Volk might retire after the Evloev fight, which is next for him. And if that happens, Diego should probably stay at 145 because he's right now kind of the clear, obvious number two. Kind of that Colby Covington, Kamaru Usman situation where if Usman wasn't champion, Covington would have been. This is kind of a situation where it seems like Volk is champion, but if he wasn't, Diego probably will be. Anyways, matchmaking for this fight, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, I have Diego Lopez versus Aljo if he wants to stay at featherweight. I think it's quite clear. None of them, or they're both coming off wins. You know, Aljo against Yusuf Zalal, where he dominated him, and Lopez obviously getting the Steve Garcia KO. So I think they both need one more win to just really be for the belt, or maybe after Volk beats Evloev, he just retires and you can do this for the interim, or not the interim, the undisputed belt. But if he does want to move up to lightweight, I think the winner of Fiziev versus Torres is the perfect like middle where he can just get into the weight class, just maybe go to a little bit of a war to see if he likes it there or not.
Right. And
And
it's not a
yeah,
clear cut contenders fight. It's almost like it's a fight where the winner is then positioned for a contenders fight. Whereas I actually think your choice at 145, Aljo Lopez, they're both coming off of wins of who did Lopez or who did Aljo beat? Remind me.
Yusuf Zalal.
Right. So they're both coming off wins where it's not like a top five win for each guy, but it's a good enough win. And with the history of Diego Lopez in championship fights, having 2 title shots already, and Aljo being a former champ, maybe if Evloev loses and Volk retires, they do that fight for the interim belt, which would kind of make sense. I know a lot of guys would like to see John Silva, but Lopez beat John Silva. So, anyways, we'll move on to the next fight, which was Bo Nickel versus Kyle Dawkins. I think we both predicted this would be a Bo Nickel decision, which was
Yeah.
not what happened. I thought it would after he got that takedown. I thought Bo would try to stand more at first. He eventually did stand and get the knockout, but I thought he would stand more, try to put on more of a show. But he got a big takedown early in round one, and Dawkins was hanging on to full guard for dear life, didn't want to move. They kind of squirmed their way onto the mat up against the cage, and then the ref stood him up. I forget the ref at this fight. Anyways, ref stood him up, and then Bo just clocks him with an overhand right. Dawkins goes down, and
Jason
Dawkins kind of
Herzog.
it was Jason Herzog. He might have been. I'm not sure. But
No, he
Dawkins,
was. He was.
okay, it was Jason Herzog. But Dawkins kind of just, I didn't like the stoppage for if I'm, from Dawkins' perspective, because he
Really?
kind of just turtled up. I mean, no, I think it was
Gave
the right
up? Yeah.
stoppage, but he quit. Not the only quitter on this card, but I think Dawkins kind of quit, turtled up, just kind of. I don't know if he expected to get dropped like that against Bo, but regardless, great win for Bo Nickel. I don't think he's ready for a top 10 or a top 5 fight. They did put him into the top 15 after this win. Mateo, who do you have match made? We see it on the screen, but tell us why it's Roman Dolidze.
I have Roman Dolidze versus Bo Nickel purely because I just think, like you said, he's not ready for the top 10. I mean, the top 10 is really full right now. They've got matchups like already set up. I think Roman Dolidze is kind of just a sacrifice the lamb for Bo Nickel to really just get into the top 15, or not into the top 15, but acclimated to, I guess, the skill level of top 15 fighters at middleweight. So I think this will be a perfect fight for him, and Roman Dolidze can finally get out of the middleweight
I know, I
rankings.
was about to say that's the big draw for me is Roman Dolidze finally is gone. We're rid of him. We're free. He's on a 2-loss win streak, 3 losses, and he's out. Cut his contract, PFL. We'll move on. The next fight on the card, Michael Chandler versus Mauricio Huffy. Probably the closest thing we'll get to McGregor Chandler. Mauricio Huffy looks like a prime featherweight McGregor, but an orthodox fighter instead. Man, I had Chandler coming out strong in the first round and then getting KO'd later in the fight. You had
That
Chandler.
did not happen.
Did you have Chandler winning this? No, I don't think you did.
No, no, no. I had him
Right.
like as a maybe, like don't be surprised if
Yes,
he
yes.
like somehow
Yeah.
drops him.
And frankly, he is an explosive guy in the first round. He gets gassed quickly. This wasn't a matter of cardio though. He kept coming. Chandler kept really trying to sit down on those
Take him
overhands.
down.
And Huffy, every time he would do that, would stick him with a jab, hit him with a short uppercut, lead uppercut. And it kind of eventually Chandler came in. Huffy got an uppercut in tight. As Chandler was level changing, knocks Chandler down. Chandler rolls back, hits his head on the back of the hits the back of his head on the canvas. Probably concussed him a little bit more than he already was. He ends up getting up and just kind of trying to run away, but Huffy stalks you down, man. Mauricio Huffy is so fun to watch because he will be on the back foot for the entire fight. He did it with Fiziev too. And then all of a sudden he just explodes and bang, he hits you with this nasty counter and you're wobbled. You don't know where to go. And then he is so violent and he's so good. That was kind of gay. No, but he's just so good at hunting you down after he sees that you're rock. He's bloodthirsty. He smells blood in the water. That's what I was looking for when I made that weird moan sound. Regardless, great performance from Mauricio Huffy. Mateo, you have him against Max Holloway. Tell me why.
I have him against Max Holloway after his fight with Connor. Hopefully, it happens purely because I think win or lose for Max. I think this is a great fight. After getting knocked out by Ilya, I am concerned because he got dropped by Dustin. He didn't look great, or he got 50-45 by Charles Oliveira. And even in the time they were standing up, he was getting hit. He was getting rocked, like with the big knee at the end with the last 10 seconds. I think Huffy could give him really problems, and he potentially could knock him out. I mean, I'm worried for Max if he does lose against Connor. But either way, win or lose with his Connor fight, if that does happen again, I think this is a perfect fight for him to really prove that he can still be a top contender in the
Right.
lightweight division.
I agree with that. Win or lose against Connor. And there is the question about his chin now that he's been knocked out by Topuria and he was dropped by Poirier. People forget, man.
Yeah.
But no, I agree with you because I think Max is in a weird spot right now where the Connor fight it doesn't really feel like a real fight. It's at welterweight. It's not going to have a lot of, there's not a lot of consequences for rankings in the division, I would think. If Connor wins, they're going to give him Gaethje probably just to have him, or Islam if he wants to stay at welterweight, or whoever the champion might be at that point in time. Because that's just, it's Connor. You're going to want to shove him into the biggest moment possible and get him to headline another numbered event. But man, I do think that if Max Holloway loses to Conor McGregor, no real stock, I think, is like there will be stock lost in the eyes of the fans, but rankings wise, there's no stock lost. He's just going to need maybe 1 or 2 extra fights to get there. And Mauricio Huffy, as an up and comer in the division, is a perfect matchup. And then if he wins, you could do this for like a title eliminator fight. Because these are 2 guys who are looking for that fight then to get them to propel them to the title. So either way, I think we enter a realm where Huffy versus Holloway. If Huffy wins, he goes on to fight for the title. If Max wins, it depends on how his previous fights have gone. Moving on up the card, we have. Oh, you want to say something else?
Yeah, I would like to say that it, like you said, it doesn't really lose his stock because this is the fight he's having with Connor is at welterweight. So, I
Right,
mean, nothing really changes for Max because he's never fought there.
right, exactly. We'll move on. Derek Lewis versus Josh Hokett. The elephant in the room, besides Derek Lewis, is that Josh Hokett called Michelle Obama a man. Say what you will,
You know,
say what you will about that moment. The unfortunate thing is that it takes away from the amazing performance that he did have against Derek Lewis. Derek Lewis, unfortunately, is 41 years of age, and that didn't help him in this fight. And I think him and Chandler should have just retired at the White House in the octagon and had like their big patriotic pro America moment, because that would have been a cool place to retire.
Gaethje too.
Yeah. I well, we can talk about Gaethje later. Anyways, uh,
Yeah,
but no, Josh Hokett, man, he came out right away, started putting it on Lewis, just like the Curtis Blades fight. I don't know how they ended up on the ground. Did he get a takedown? You'll have to remind me.
he
I'm
did. Yeah,
blanking. Got a
he shot a
takedown,
good
and then
takedown.
he went for an armbar with like 30 seconds left in the round. And I don't know if it was like, I don't know what proportions, if Derek's arms were too short, too long, or Hockett was like too not lanky enough or whatever.
Retarded.
I don't know. Maybe Derek's back fat got in the way of it, but the armbar, like Hockett had a full armbar but could not finish it, and it's kind of weird. He like kind of just hung on to it for the last 30 seconds of round one. It might have been a situation where I'm not sure if Hockett had it the technique correct, where he didn't, maybe arch the pelvis, kind because you kind of in in an arm bar, you kind of have to squeeze your legs together to really get leverage and kind of thrust your pelvis through the elbow. So maybe he didn't do that correctly. I don't know. I don't really know how he didn't get the submission, though. I thought he was going to get it, but moved on to round two. And then Hockett just put it on him. TKO, knocks him down. The volume gets there. Hockett doesn't have a ton of power, but he really gets you with volume, man. Like the Curtis Blades fight, I
And
felt like
speed.
Blades was eating those shots. Exactly, but speed as well, as you mentioned. But Hockett's so fast, and he's just got a motor. He just goes and he'll punch you and he'll punch you and he'll punch you, and then eventually you're on the ground. You don't really know how you got. It's not like there was one shot that did it for you, but they just start adding up little by little, and eventually you can't take anymore. And Lewis just kind of flopped like an elephant onto the mat and kind of just took a beating until the fight was stopped. Matchmaking for Josh Hokett. I know you're excited for this one. Tell me about it.
I think this is the most obvious fight to do, honestly. I mean, Hackett obviously just calling out Pereira, just Chama on your mama. Pereira obviously coming off the brutal loss against Gon. If he does decide to stay at heavyweight, which I think he should, it's really bad to cut back to, light heavyweight. I think this
Right.
is the perfect fight. I mean, if Hackett beats Pereira, he's right there for the title. If Pereira beats Hackett, I mean, he's also probably right there for the title, considering the run that Hackett's been on. Blades and Lewis, two top 10 wins. I mean, this is perfect.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And this is, like you said about moving back down to light heavyweight, it is a 20-pound jump from middleweight to light heavyweight. And 20 pounds is kind of easy to find at that height and kind of the build of guys like Alex Pereira, even in Israel Adesanya, or some of these guys. But moving up to heavyweight is a 50-pound difference, because a lot of these guys are 255 plus. 265 is the limit. So really it could be a 60-pound. I think Gon was 230 something, but Alex was 250, 240.
He's 248 or
Put on a
something.
ton of weight, and a lot of that went to his rear. We can talk about it later, but it's a tough cut. So we want him to stay at heavyweight, and like you said, Josh Hokett's been all over him. So beautiful match. It's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer, and it gets both, and it could be a title eliminator fight. Moving on, we have Sean O'Malley, Arizona native, Sugar Sean, my favorite fighter, one of probably might be the best bantamweight of all time. Fight me on that. Sean O'Malley knocked out Amin Zahabi. We have another win against the Canadian. America is up so good in the Big 2-6. 2026 has been our year. We beat Canada in the gold medal game at the Winter Olympics, and Sean O'Malley just knocked out Amin Zahabi on the White House front lawn, and salute the
Winning
troops
the
right
World Cup
after he
too.
did it. Awesome fight. The only real thing to talk about in this fight, it wasn't very, not a lot happened up until the finishing blow. The only thing that really happened was Zahabi kept coming coming towards Sean with this like running lead leg kick that was chewing up Sean's lead leg. You can even see the redness in the photo. And, watching the fight, you're thinking, yeah, like, it's hurting him. Sean spun around a couple times as well, which kind of can make it look worse. But you're thinking, like, yeah, it doesn't look like Sean's very phased, though. Like, Suga he was still marching forward. He was switching stances, but it wasn't like he was switching stances because his legs were getting chewed up. He was switching stances because he does that in every fight. That's kind of his style. But Joe Rogan on the commentary is, oh, that leg kick. Sean O'Malley's leg is done, folks. It was horrible. It was really bad. And I'm normally not the guy to complain about commentary, but dude, Joe Rogan was so annoying, and his commentary was just so bad for this fight in particular. Because the leg kicks weren't like, if you listened only to the Joe Rogan commentary, you'd think that Sean O'Malley was out there hobbling on one leg, And like I said, the leg kicks, they were damaging. There was redness, but Sean was able to work through it. In the second round, I think the first round probably went to Zahabi, maybe. Actually, I think it went to Sean. He didn't get the leg kicks really going until the second. He landed a couple hard ones in the first. I think Sean squeaked the first round away. But then in the second, Amon keeps coming at him with these leg kicks. And eventually, Suga just times a left cross from Southpaw, knocks him down. Zahabi stumbles, tries to roll over, and while getting back up, Sean, lunges in with a jab overhand right combo, knocks him down. Kind of an early stoppage because of Zahabi's, but only because Zahabi fell like he was out, but when he hit the canvas, it was one of those moments where, oh, he wasn't really out. But if you just watch the fall, you'd think he's out. So I understand the stoppage. I think he was probably concussed and didn't really know what was going on. So I liked the stoppage. Sean O'Malley, man, my Arizona native, my neighbor. I love this guy. Who do we have him fighting next, Mateo?
We have him fighting against Peter Yan. I think this is maybe another obvious fight. He called him out too at the White House. I think this is pretty. Sean O'Malley has a win over him, robbery, some people say, but
those people are crazy.
He could either jump Marab. He could either jump Marab for the title fight, which I don't think he should. And again, I don't think he should wait either, but I don't mind him waiting purely because he's already beat two top contenders, and Song Yadong just got a win over Figueiredo, so that win ages pretty good.
Right.
I think this fight is just perfect win or loss for Peter Yan. I think you give him that fight.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I do think that this fight has to happen. I'll tell you what I think. I think that Suga should fight Peter Yan next no matter what. Umar's doing whatever the hell he's doing. He's not really fighting contenders. I'm kind of confused with what Umar's plan is right now with the fights that he's
David Martinez.
Doesn't make a lot of sense, exactly. Batista and Corey Sandhagen are fighting. Sean O'Malley, Corey Sandhagen is one of those fights where, like, you have to do that fight before both those guys retire. I don't know when you necessarily do that, but I think Sandhagen's kind of – I don't know if Sandhagen's necessarily
he's over on the outs.
He's over the hump, is what I'm trying to get at here. So you got to book that fight, but I do think that Yan next makes sense, whether Merab beats Yan in the rematch or not. Because I don't know if Sean leapfrogs Merab. I think that's a tough one to sell. Maybe just because he's such a big star, but Merab's been inactive for a long time, and he's a guy who likes to be active. So I think there is a fight in the works for Merab. We'll have to see. I like this fight, though. I think if Yan's the champion, this fight makes a lot of sense, and you can have O'Malley sit out, wait for Merab. And then even if Yan loses to Merab, this is a fight that once again makes sense because you kind of, and it might make more sense than doing O'Malley Merab 3, because I know, UFC, these crazies at the UFC think that Sean has 2 losses to Merab, even though it's 1-1 in the trilogy, and I'd love to see the trilogy. I don't think that Dana would book it. So maybe he would. Maybe he wants money. Actually, he probably would book it because he's a bald. He's like Kingpin. Anyways, we'll move on to the co-main event. Oh, my heart breaks. The back of the headshots. It was horrible. This was like one of the worst fight watching experiences of my life. Cyril Gane knocked out my boy Alex Pereira in brutal fashion. I was watching this and it was just like my mouth was on the floor. What the fuck am I saying? My jaw was on the ground.
My mouth.
I don't even know, bro. No, but Cyril Gahn.
John Jones stock goes up.
All right, yeah. So John Jones is apparently the greatest of all time. Sucks. No, man, Pereira. It might have just been too much for Pereira. We talked about it a little bit earlier. You got to put on 50 pounds. And Joe Rogan, people forget, man. Joe Rogan said that, and one of the few times I'll agree with Joe Rogan on this commentary, he said that it looked like 40 pounds went to Pereira's butt. I completely agree. Bro looked like he got a BBL. I think Sean O'Malley even said that. His ass is massive at heavyweight. I'm not sure how he did that. I had this fight. I predicted that Pereira would get a submission in this fight. I want to address that real quick. I thought the training that he was doing to enlarge the gluteus maximus muscle would be explosivity. A lot of squats, a lot of maybe duck walking. I thought he was maybe training for a takedown because he is a jiu-jitsu black belt, believe it or not, and his head coach is Glover Teixeira. I thought they might want to put that thought in Gahn's head if they shoot for an early takedown, but it was actually Gahn who shot for an early takedown in this fight. And I don't even know if that bothered Pereira. Pereira had a good moment at the end of round one. I think Aspinall, and I think you convinced me of this actually, is that Aspinall had a better round one against Gahn than Pereira did, which after rewatching, I agree. There was a stiff jab in probably halfway through the second round where they're both circling kind of to the center of the octagon after an exchange. And Gahn's just quick at heavyweight, man. He's so fast, and he gets in there, stiff jab, knocks Pereira down, puts him on his knees, and then Gahn goes for like 12 to 15 back of the head elbows. I hated watching this, and gosh, do I hate Cyril Gahn. He's such a dirty fighter, and I was like fucking doing the Hail Mary. I was praying. I was about to get my rosary out because there were a lot of back of the head shots. I thought it might, people can die from those shots. It's just not, it wasn't a good thing to see, but Pereira eventually somehow, he got knocked down. He grabbed on a leg. He eventually got back to his feet, but he just got back to his feet, but it was too little too late. He was so wobbled, and Cyril Gahn just kept swinging like a fucking rabid gorilla. He just there was no technique anymore. He was just kind of world star swinging.
He wanted to kill Pereira.
Oh my God, it was brutal. He is like a psycho. He might be more of a psychopath than Sean Strickland. Shout out Sean Strickland for getting arrested on the UFC White House card. Moving on. But yeah, unfortunate fight for us Pereira fans. Hopefully he stays at heavyweight because I think it is interesting. But man, I hate Cyril Gahn, and I hope Tom Aspinall knocks him out in the rematch. I think Aspinall should come into this fight with goggles on. I hate Gahn so much, that dirty Frenchman. Anyways, take it away, Mateo. Talk about this fight.
Yeah, man. Again, I think besides the Hockenper, this is the most obvious fight to do. Gahn versus Aspinall. They already fought, but it was a no contest when I thought Gahn won the first round, and it was really like quote unquote dropped Aspinall's stock of like him beating John Jones, and then now Pereira comes in, and then Gahn quote unquote upsets Pereira, and now we get to see this rematch that I think should have been, I wouldn't say should have been booked already, but I think this proves further why Gahn and Aspinall should fight again.
Yeah.
And I mean, Aspinall already said, in Paris, September, somewhere around there.
Yeah, no, doing this fight, this is one of those fights where you got to do it in Europe. You got to go to the UK. You got to do this in London at the O2 or at Wembley Stadium, maybe with Paddy Gaethje too. I don't know. Anyways, but no, you do this in the UK or you do this in Paris. They did mention Paris after the fight. It pains me because Cyril Gahn is just like it's so bad for the health of the division for Gahn to just hang around because he lost to Francis and he lost to John and he lost to Volkov, So it's like, and he got knocked down by Tai Tuivasa. Like, this guy is such a hit or miss fighter, it seems like, throughout his career, but he really has turned a corner, I think, since the Volkov fight. He looked way better against Aspinall than he did against Volkov, and he looked damn good against Alex Pereira. So maybe he's turned a corner and he is a new fighter. Would be interesting to see if Gahn ends up getting the belt and then calls out Francis Ngannou, who's, I guess, signed with Netflix.
Oh,
I don't.
gosh.
Hey, but what we're trying to, dude. Imagine Dana
Calls
White.
out John
Yeah,
Jones.
dude.
Oh
Imagine Dana
gosh.
White loses another heavyweight champion to like, you know, alternate promotions or boxing. That would be brutal. Which reminds me to mention Tom Aspinall. If you're listening, you got to rein in Eddie Hearn. Like you're gonna upset Dana. It's not gonna be well. It's not gonna end well. We
Francis
love you. We
2.0.
don't want you to leave because then Cyril Gahn will terrorize this division, and that's the worst thing for everyone. It really is. He is such a. If you didn't already understand, I don't like Cyril Gahn. I just don't.
Is he the dirtiest fighter of all time, or is it John?
That's a great question.
Now there's a
It's
real
a great
discussion.
question. I don't.
Yeah, now there's a real.
It's different when it's different because like you watch McGregor Dustin, right? Or you watch a couple other fights where there is a back of the head shot. And like McGregor Dustin's a good example because he knocks down Dustin in featherweight, I should say. Featherweight, the first time they fought. McGregor knocks Dustin down. He falls forward. Then he goes and he hammer fists the back of his head. And you can see Conor correct himself on the next strike and go forward and hit him in the front of the face to get the TKO. And a lot of guys will do that where they will see, oh, that's the back of the head. And even if they get one back of the head shot off in the heat of the moment, a lot of guys can correct and loop around, especially when a guy's hurt like that. It's pretty easy to loop around and get to the front of the face or get to at least the side of the head and the temple area.
Does not do that.
Gahn is staring through the back of his head and just raining 12-6 elbows. Horrible. I mean, it was so. Herb Dean should have stepped in. I do think that this was. I think he should have separated them and given Pereira time to recover in the same way that if someone gets kneed to the head when they're on the ground, they get time to recover, like we saw with Smith and Anthony Smith and John Jones, right?
Jones.
I would have liked to see it because it was a good knockdown, and I don't want to rob Cyril Gahn of a win because he deserved to get the knockdown and then hit follow-up shots. So you let him do a couple, but when he starts going to like 3 or 4, dude, he had back of the head shots against Tai Tuivasa, back of the head shots against JDS. Thank you. It's too much for me. I don't like it. I hope Tom Aspinall knocks him out. This is a no-brainer fight. You're right. Paris or the UK. And it's finally time to move on to the main event. I manifested this. This is my masterpiece. Justin Gaethje knocks out Ilia Topuria because Topuria quit on the stool. Unbelievable. This has changed my entire perspective on Ilia. It really has. What happens when he's in there?
He's switching up, bro.
Round 3 with Paddy Pimblett, and Paddy's on him. They're grappling, and Ilya's gassed from the grapple. I should talk about the fight first because we'll get into it. But man, I had no faith. I really didn't. I picked Gaethje to win by 3rd round TKO. He knocked him. He wobbled him. He didn't knock him down. He wobbled him in the 3rd round, and then Ilya quit at the end of the 4th round. But man, what a fight! The walkouts for this fight, dude. This whole card was awesome. But the walkouts for this fight in particular, especially Gaethje's walkout, so sick, dude. They pan to him inside the Oval Office, staring at the Declaration of Independence. He mentioned it, and he was like, "What language is it?" Like he didn't know it was English. Okay. Anyways, but no, it was awesome. They pan in. He's reading the Declaration, and then he walks out to a Johnny Cash rendition from the Marine Band. Awesome. They did a great job all night too. The production on this entire event was amazing. We can talk about that a bit later, but man, walks out to Ain't No Grave Johnny Cash, American flag over his shoulder, flanked by Medal of Honor recipient and honor guard. It was so patriotic. It made me love this country more than I ever believed I could. I love America right now. This is like, I'm on cloud 9. I got to talk about the fight though. Okay. First round starts, and I still didn't have a lot of faith, and I texted you. We were texting throughout this fight, and I was like, oh, Gaethje won the first round, and I kind of said it sarcastically. It seemed like it was going the same way as the Max fight, where Ilya had to find a way to get into range, but once he got into range, it looked like he would be able to finish it. Gaethje was hitting him on the outside. Gaethje looked a bit nervous in the first round, but as the fight continued, get into the second round, I could see Gaethje getting a little bit more comfortable, lots of clashes, and Gaethje's so good at doing that like duck and then grabbing the back of your head and hitting you with an uppercut. And he's like pulling you into the uppercut. He hit Ilya with that probably 3 or 4 times in the first round. Then he kept doing it in the second. And he would kind of wobble in, fake a takedown almost. And then he'd come up, get him in the clinch, and hit him with the uppercut. It was really nasty. Gaethje's so good in chaos, man. You talk about Diego Lopez being good in chaos. This is Gaethje's realm. You're in his world now, folks. But no, so Ilya in the second round ends up getting Gaethje up against the cage, hitting him with body shot, liver, ribs, and you can see Gaethje crumbling. And I go, this is it, man. This is over. Gaethje ends up actually getting knocked down or stumbling over because of the pain of the body shots. And instead of, posturing up and hitting Gaethje with more, ground and pound, getting the TKO, Ilya went to grapple when they're both soaking wet in sweat. It's outside. It's probably humid in DC. Really bad idea to grapple with Gaethje in that context and in that setting. But Ilya was kind of gassed, so I don't know if he made that decision on purpose or really if it was kind of just, I'm here now, I might as well go for it, and I don't really want to expend the energy to get up and try to hit more shots. But no, he goes for an armbar. Gaethje's able to slither. Yes, and then we can talk about that. He goes for an armbar. Gaethje slithers out of it, and then Ilya tries to transition to a inverted triangle choke, and Gaethje's like not having any of it. Ends up getting out. Ilya gets side guard, and for like probably a minute or so, Ilya just kind of lays in side guard on Gaethje. They finish the round out, and Ilya at this point is feeling it. He's gassed. You can tell Ilya did not think this was the fight that he was going to be in. Gaethje said in the post-fight interview, he told himself he was going to lose this fight so he could be in his most primal form. Man, was he for real. Because Gaethje, the thing that happened in round 2 was Ilya hit Gaethje with everything he had, and Gaethje sat there and took it and survived. Ilya hit him with these body shots that were literally you could hear the crunching of the ribs. It was nasty. And Gaethje was able to survive, and round 3 comes in, and they're scrapping in the middle, and out of nowhere they circle back. Gaethje kind of hits a jab, follows it with a right hook, and absolutely cracks Ilya. He folds over. Gaethje jumps on a Darce choke. They end up scrambling a bit, get back to the feet. And then throughout the round, Gaethje's kind of just putting it on Ilya, so much so to the point where Ilya's face is absolutely destroyed. The end of the third round, they bring the doctor in. I thought they were going to stop the fight. It was bad. He said he couldn't see. It kind of looked like Topuria was trying to say, no, I can keep going, but really I can't see, kind of so he could have that plausible deniability while giving himself an out, like doctor stoppage, And, but man, he looked battered. He looked beaten. Nothing like we've ever seen Ilya before. And he's a guy who wears stuff, on his face when he gets hit. His face has been red in every fight I can remember, except for the Charles fight, because that happened so fast and Charles didn't really land. But Holloway pieced him up. Even Volk put some damage on him. So Ilya wears damage, and it looked bad for him. Gaethje's face is absolutely normal. He's Rufusing it up. Looks like Homer Simpson as usual. And then, dude, round 4 starts, and Ilya just takes the round off. Straight up, doesn't want to be in there, takes the round off, lets Gaethje do whatever, maybe throws a jab or two, but Gaethje is kind of he's able to just coast to another round, and before you know it, Gaethje's up 3-1 going into the 5th, and Alejandro Topuria, Ilya's brother, throws in the towel from the corner. Topuria quits on the stool. I should mention, at the end of the 4th round, Topuria kind of crumbled over, and Gaethje landed a nasty knee to the body. Ilya's on the ground, turtled up, kind of in like a turtle position, like if someone was giving up their back to a rear naked, and Gaethje hits him with this right knee that digs right into his left ribs, and it was very clear that Topuria could not breathe, most definitely broke a rib, and Topuria's huffing and puffing, leaning over on the stool, and his corner calls it, and Gaethje's the lightweight champion. Unbelievable, mind blown. He also almost snapped his neck doing a backflip at the White House, but I just yapped for so long about this fight. This is one of my favorite fights of all time, one of my favorite events of all time. Insane. I can't believe I picked it too. I'm so hyped. I had money on it. It was awesome. This was like the best way this could have gone, unless Pereira won. But 7 fights, 7 knockouts. One of us we guessed every fight together. Unbelievable night for predictions. What do you do next with Justin Gaethje? Mateo, tell me. Oh, this is the knee. I got so caught up in myself. I didn't even go to the next slide. This is the knee. He's curled up on the ground, and Gaethje lands this This is like you can see it in the corner of the photo. 6 seconds left in round 4. Just crumbles him, man. Unbelievable. Nobody was beating Justin Gaethje on the White House at that night. Nobody. That was his moment. And I talked about it in the prediction. I said this is his miracle on ice. This is Buster Douglas knocking out Mike Tyson. This is Rocky versus Drago. It's going to happen, and it did happen. I need to shut up. Tell me about this.
So, for his next matchup, we have Justin Gaethje versus Conor. If Conor wins, obviously, this all depends on if Conor McGregor slimes out Max Holloway, which I think he will. Hot take, whatever. I think Max, the chin is very questionable. It's at welterweight. I think this is perfect. If Justin Gaethje does not fight Conor, or he should wait to see how this fight plays out, I think he should retire. There's no reason to do an Armin, a Charles 2. Maybe I could see a Patty too if he wins over BSD. But like, dude, you've accomplished it all. You just beat one of the most unbeatable fighters till that time in Ilia Topuria. You beat Dustin Poirier, 2-time interim champ, White House. Like, just it's Conor or nothing. I think for Justin.
I 1000% agree. I think it's kind of the same. It's honestly poetic. He's in the same exact position as Michael Chandler, who is at the lowest point of his career, and Justin Gaethje's at the highest. If Conor loses to Holloway, Gaethje should retire. He should not take a fight against one of these young killers. He shouldn't let Ilya get the rematch. He should just go out on top. He's 37. This is your masterpiece. You leave it. You finally did it. You're world champion. No interim this time. And you just leave the sport, and you live as a legend forever. He is a legend forever, no matter what happens next. But just the best way to possibly end it. And then if Conor loses in this scenario, he goes on, and I think the only fight for Chandler would be if McGregor wants to do that, just because they have so much beef, and Chandler's at the tail end of his career. Give him the payday, right? And Conor might want, another win. And there's a story behind that fight. If Conor wins, though, Chandler needs to get the fuck out and retire. There's nothing for him anymore in the sport. And the only thing left for him, or for Justin Gaethje, would be a Conor McGregor fight. That would be the ultimate. You think a win over Topuria puts him over, a win over Conor, right? And think about how big this fight would be. I mean, think about how big this fight would be. Gaethje just made himself a superstar, man. At the White House, made himself a superstar right now. If his next fight is against Conor McGregor, who has just come back and beaten Max Holloway, dude, this is like arguably we're getting to could be McGregor numbers, but maybe not, because it's a big fight for Americans. It's not going to have the Russian guys and the more Muslim crowd fan base, and it would be a huge fight. And I think it's the only thing left for both of these guys. They're both very old. This is so weird, because if you told me 3, 4, 5 years ago that Justin Gaethje was going to be, if you told me after Topuria beat Oliveira that Justin Gaethje was going to go on to beat Paddy Pimblett for the interim belt, and then go on to beat Ilia Topuria on the White House front lawn, the south lawn of the White House, in front of Donald Trump and everyone, and then he went on to beat Conor McGregor, I would have told you to stop smoking crack. Unbelievable. I'm so speechless with Gaethje's performance and the way that the trajectory of his career has gone. Really incredible. Any final thoughts?
No, not really. I mean, if Justin, like I said before, if Justin does win this, if he does face Conor for a defense and wins, I think he's top 5 lightweight of all time. He might already be there.
I was going to say,
he has a win over Poirier.
Yes. I might say he's there now. I think he just eclipsed Poirier in my book. Maybe.
I mean, Poirier
it's
does have a really good resume.
It's a conversation for another day. That could be another video in itself. Speaking of other videos, We didn't mention what's going on right now in the MMA world with Topuria Cope and Pereira's back of the headshots allegations. We are going to make a separate video about that. That will come out tomorrow because, oh my God, we do need to talk about how utterly insane these Topuria fans are. Their Cope is on another level, man. Gaethje beat Ilya at Ilya's fight. He's just, nobody was beating Gaethje that night. I said it earlier, but that's really what it comes down to. Ilya was not ready. I will say this, actually. The last thing I'll say before we wrap up this video. Ilya's been asking for it. I have no pity, no sorrow, no empathy, no sympathy for Ilya Topuria right now. I know that he's got some family stuff going on, and I have sympathy and empathy for that. But as far as the fighter goes, my favorite fighter is Volk. My third favorite fighter is Max. I hate Ilya Topuria.
Both brutally slimed
up. When I met Arman Sarukian, the only thing I told Arman was fuck Ilya Topuria. Straight up. I'm not a Topuria guy. He's crazy. I've enjoyed his. I've been able to appreciate his rise, and I've been able to cheer for that aspect of greatness that he has. But I hate seeing him knock out my favorite fighters, man. Knocked out Charles too. Subbed Bryce Mitchell. I'm just saying. He's beat a lot of my favorites. To see him get humbled like that was awesome. And Gaethje I said it in the prediction. If anyone's going to do it, it's going to be Gaethje. And I'm so happy because this was it, man. He needed it. He took out the 18-0 in his bio. And if you do that, he got the tattoo with Gaethje's name already crossed out. He was celebrating. He's been doing it every fight, celebrating the night before with his family about how he's already won the fight. And it's fucking, it's intimidating. It's kind of sick when he's winning and going on. That's like a cool thing to do. But Gaethje had none of it, man. Gaethje said, fuck this guy. I don't give a fuck. I'm going out there. I'm beating his ass. It was awesome. Awesome. I'm so happy it happened. It's going to be a wild when Trash Talk goes wrong video. It really will be. That's all I got. That's all. Is that all you got?
I mean, yeah, nothing really much to say.
I yapped way too much. Yeah, I yapped way too much. You will. Fuck Ilya. Fuck Ilya. I switched up quick. Sean O'Malley would knock out Ilya Topuria. John O'Malley.
Right, okay.
I did. Hey, I got through 2 White House videos with no Trump impression. How about that? Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoy content like this and want to get our predictions for every single fight card that the UFC puts on, be sure to like, comment, sub. We went 7 for 7. We're going to go 12 for 12 next week. We always pick fights, right? If we pick a fight wrong next week, we will delete the channel. You heard it here. We will delete the channel.